All right, from electricity to water, and great concern about water supply to some Joburg hospitals. Intermittent supply to Helen, Joseph and Rahim and Moosa hospitals worsened by a weekend power cut. While we understand the water is now restored to those areas, the concerns are ongoing. We know we have poor water and electricity infrastructure, particularly here in Johannesburg. The big fear, of course, what if water supply is interrupted during the peak of the third COVID wave, with hospitals already under pressure? Well, Charity Gift of the Givers has a plan. Its director, Dr Imtiaz Sooliman, joins me now. Good evening, Dr Sooliman. Just tell us, what is the plan for Rahim and Moosa in Coronationville?
Good evening, Sally. It's a usual program. You know, when there's a shortage of water, when the water is not being supplied properly, when electricity affects the pumps, you go to the most common sense approach, and that's look for boreholes. And we were called on Friday by the management at Rahim and Moosa to say we are in serious trouble. And they gave the whole explanation about the water and said, look, can you help us with temporary measures? We don't know how long this is going to take, but we urgently need toilets and bottled water. So we said, look, bottled water we can do immediately on Friday. They called again yesterday for bottled water. And they said, look, the water problem is serious. And the theatres are not functioning properly. The other hospitals are not functioning properly. They were very polite. They didn't complain too much, you know, and they just tried to make do. And then we realized this can't go on, because this is something that we experience all the time. We know what we've done with water throughout the country. And we said your only solution right now, and which is a permanent solution, and which every hospital in South Africa should have, is a borehole or a few boreholes. And immediately this morning we dispatched our team. They're on site. They've marked the place. Actually, they're going to drill right in the doctor's car park, which seems to be the point location where our hydrologist has detected the water will be.
So this is interesting. You're saying every hospital should have a borehole in South Africa. It makes perfect sense. I understand as well, though, that there are actually defunct boreholes at Rahim and Moosa that have for some reason fallen into disuse. Why are they not being used?
That's the same story throughout South Africa. It's not only Rahim and Moosa. And the first thing that we do is when we go on site, whilst looking for water in a new borehole, we also look and we try to assign the existing boreholes and then check if they are functional or not. Many of them, in the old days, well, in today's days, what we do is we pack boreholes with either PVC or Odex, depending on the type of sand. Some of them need packing, some of them don't need packing. And it's possible in the old days, packing was not done. So a lot of boreholes, the walls collapse, and the borehole becomes totally ineffective. But fortunately, in some places, we found boreholes that could be rescued, that could be resuscitated, where we could drill slightly deeper into the borehole, put some packing, put in pumps, and it functions. So our aim is twofold tomorrow. We're starting to drill at 7 o'clock in the morning, is to start drilling on a new site, and while that's being done, go and look at other sites. If somebody can point out or know where the boreholes are, we can try to see if we can resuscitate those boreholes. And you know, it's the same thing that should be done throughout the country.
So drilling will start tomorrow at 7 o'clock, right in the middle of the doctor's car park at Rahim and Moosa Hospital. I mean, this is really a quick turnaround, and it's extremely good news. Is it possible then, once you hit water, to link that up to the entire hospital system? Can that borehole look after an entire hospital's needs?
It depends on the rate of flow, you know, and the pressure from the borehole itself. Pressure is not an issue. We can put, you know, booster pumps. We can pump the borehole, the water into the existing hospital infrastructure. And from there we can push it up to the 4th floor, how many floors this hospital has. And we can push it to all the floors. But before that, we need to know the yield. There's several things we have to do when you're drilling for a borehole. It's just not you drill and you get water and that's the end of the story. We are watching over 24, 48, 72 hours to see how it recharges. In other words, once we take the water, it tells us 5,000 liters an hour. And then we have to pump to make sure that we don't kill the aquifer. So they do a yield test and they say, okay, no, we can get 5,000 liters an hour, but this borehole can only refill 3,000 liters per hour. And then we drop it to under 3,000 liters an hour. So it depends how much liters we get per hour. That's the first thing. Then we have to do the testing to see what type of metals, chemicals are found, whether there's E. coli or other parasites in the water itself. And those tests can take anything between 10 and 15 days. Once that's done, and you say everything is clear, then you need an electrical connection. Now there's a problem with that. Depends how far the electrical connection is from the borehole, but in the hospital, it's not a big deal. You are inside the hospital itself. And then when ESCOM's problems, you decide, do you go for the electrical connection, do you go for generator, or do you go for solar panels? So all that has to be thought out within the system. And once that's all sorted out, then you can start putting the booster pumps to pump it into the hospital system.
You know, it's such a brilliant solution, but I have to ask, who's paying? Because surely this is actually the job of the Joburg municipality or City Joburg Water. I mean, it's wonderful that you as a charity are doing this, but how much is it costing? Who's paying? And where's the municipality in all of this?
Sally, it's the same story. We pay all the time. You know, it's something that we do all the time, and we can't wait for government. You know, these are crises that need to be sorted out same time. And I've been asked that question before many times, and even on your program. You know what? Are we doing the work that the government should be doing? And I keep saying the problem is they need to change their systems, how they operate. Individuals, you know, can't take the decision. They mean well, but the system ties their hands, and they need to change the system. This is an emergency. You can't. It's 14 days. You can't be having a hospital that doesn't have water for 14 days or is intermittent water at a time when you're trying to catch up backlog from between the second wave of COVID. And before you can catch it up, you're hit by the third wave, and all that time is lost. Plus, you're carrying patients from Charlotte Macquarie Hospital, which has been closed, and I can't understand why for so long. I mean, the whole hospital didn't burn down. It's only one part of the hospital that burned, and surely at least 2/3 of the hospital could be functional by now. What's the delay? And all that pressure is on this hospital. And in addition to that, there's one more problem. The CEO on a program said yesterday, I haven't spoken to her, but I heard her. And she said, people from the community are coming for water to the hospital because they don't have water in their areas. So it's not only the hospital. So now the hospital has to deal with its own crisis. It has to deal with people coming from outside. And you have the risk of too much people being there and a high risk for COVID-19 in the third wave. So government has to look at the systems, and you need to act fast to intervene, to solve the problem. To answer your question, this is donor money. The money is coming from donors who are readily have come forward. And in fact, even many of the doctors within the hospital want to support the borehole drilling.
Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, and good luck with drilling into the doctor's car park tomorrow to find that water at Rahim and Moosa Hospital in Coronationville. That was Director of Gift of the Givers, Dr Imtiaz Sooliman.